Really appreciate everybody's time coming in. I'm really excited to talk about this topic again. We've been kind of discussing this for the past couple months and doing a lot of formative work behind the scenes, trying to get a handle on how this is all going to shake out. And what I'm referring to with it is this transition for how law firms are going to handle AI, and specifically AI search tools. So we're talking about ChatGPT is, maybe the most ubiquitous one or best well known, but you also have some really big changes happening with Google's AI mode, their AI overviews, and you have some other players entering the scene as well that are starting to make some more noise. Groups like Perplexity and others who are starting to kind of nibble at the levers of distribution. So they're trying to get deals with Apple to be on iPhones. We're starting to see Perplexity put in a bid to get access to Google Chrome to potentially buy that off of Google. So there's some interesting things happening out there, and our view on this is that search is still a huge dominant piece of the puzzle right now, but this is going to change over the coming months and years. And so we want to have all of our clients and all the other law firms out there who are looking to grow, who are tech savvy and wanting to stay ahead of the trend. That's what this is all about, is starting to start putting the boots on the ground, or the real tangible steps that can actually get you found in these AI search tools. So I'm going to cover a lot about what we know about it currently, what our best guidance is on the topic, and then we're going to make this really actionable. It's going to be a lot about what steps you can take right now to actually see improvement on this topic. So I'm really excited to do this. Last month we talked more. Well, we talked about ads last month, but the month prior to that, we were talking a lot about kind of the theoretical implications of this and kind of the big picture trends. This is really all about being tactical, getting in and making real changes now that are going to have a negligible impact on your ability to get new clients. So I think we've got most folks in at this point, and so I'll go ahead and we can get rolling. And at any point during this, please add questions, follow-ups to the chat. We have folks monitoring that, and also I am a terrible multitasker, so I'll probably look at it too and answer those questions as well. But definitely want this to be interactive, because this is such an emerging topic that everybody's point of view on it's different, or their level of knowledge about it. And so if I'm talking way too at a beginner level or way too advanced, please let me know, and happy to make this as valuable as possible for the people who have shown up here today. And we're extremely thankful that you have and taking your lunch with us. So hopefully you're having something good. All right. So I don't know if you guys have experienced this at all, but we've started, the past 3 months, started to get our first, conversations that, hey, I found you on GPT, or I found you on Perplexity, or Google's AI mode. Has anyone in the room heard this in a client intake call, or through the form that you've seen, or maybe for a client? Yeah. I'm curious, is it all GPT? Are you hearing other ones? Do people, have they expressed any sort of, preference around it? And I have a feeling that GPT is kind of going to become the ubiquitous catch-all for all AI tools, kind of the same way that, hey, I Googled you. Well, that could mean ads, it could mean organic, it could mean a variety of things, right? But it, generally means someone was on GPT or another AI tool and found you. And so if it hasn't happened to you already and you haven't heard that, there's probably a good chance that you are in some way affected by this now, because what we are seeing is a really fast shift across the United States and in Canada, primarily, where we work with our clients for the most part, that more and more people are shifting to using these tools, and the change is happening very, very quick. A couple of months ago, I was not particularly worried or feeling a high sense of urgency to figure out a way to really optimize for these AI search tools. Because if you look at the big picture, the data up till now and even today is so heavily skewed toward Google as the dominant player of search that these other tools like GPT and Perplexity were getting a lot of buzz, and they'd made a really big splash, getting a ton of press and people talking about them in the discussion sphere. But in reality, not that many people were using them in comparison to Google. And so you're looking at the entire search ecosystem. Google still maintains a really dominant share of that market. Talking about 85% or more. However, we are seeing real clear signals that client discovery is shifting fast, and a lot of people, especially the younger generation who are coming of age and beginning to need legal services, whether it's a divorce or a criminal case or estate planning as well, they are increasingly using these tools for research. And if it's not the only thing they're doing, they're using it as part of it. So I think everyone, if you're a law firm, has to be mindful of this, right? So it's, I think a balance of understanding, being aware of it, but not going too far in one direction, but having a really measured, proportional response to this, because I do think now is the time to really get on the ground level of this trend. But at the same time, I would not be putting all of my eggs in this basket at this moment, because even us talking about this today, there's still a huge percentage of the United States and Canada who have never even tried ChatGPT, right? We're here, and the people on this call are likely fall into that early adopter type of mindset and usage. And so the way we're interacting with this is probably not the same as others out there. That being said, again, most adults now say they are using AI to search for information. So they are using it at some level, right? And so what we're anticipating and seeing is, having a kind of combination of not just Google, but people using GPT, maybe doing their initial research on GPT and then moving over to Google to find other types of data. But the fact is that this is happening, and it's going to augment everybody's client acquisition process. So we want you to be ready. We see this as a big, enormous issue that we're preparing for over the course of the next year, so that our clients are really on the vanguard of this, and they are very well prepared as these numbers truly start to materialize, and your ChatGPT becomes ubiquitous with people just opening their phone. They may not even know they're talking to ChatGPT, but it's just a different way that they're searching. So it's kind of like the full adoption of what they brought with like Siri or other things that are on your phone, where now these tools are just going to become so ingrained in the DNA of how we seek information that it's not going to be required to be an early adopter. They're just going to be in the DNA of how we ask questions. And so we want to be well ahead of everybody else as this happens, and put you in a great position to capture those leads, capture that new business in this new emerging model. And I've talked about this a little bit before, that I feel like this is kind of our this generation's yellow pages moment. And so, what I mean by that is, I recall growing up, and a discussion, with my dad and his law partner was about, oh, should they advertise in yellow pages? Do they advertise on billboards, things like that? And fast forward 2 or 3 years later, there's no more phone books out there to be found, right? It all shifted to the internet. And so I feel like we're at that kind of moment where there's all this momentum building, and then very, very soon we're going to have this avalanche, and you really want to be prepared for this moving forward. All right, one quick note before we get into a lot of the meat of this presentation. Just again, thank you so much for joining us. If you have questions, please add them in the chat. We're going to I may address them immediately, or we might wait a little bit towards the end to cover them, kind of depending on how they fit in. But if you have questions about any of the specifics, want me to expand on anything, please add them in. This is meant to give you, people who showed up, as much value as possible for this, and we are extremely grateful for your time and for your attention. So let's just cover at a very high level what we're going to accomplish today. So the first thing, we're going to look at the latest trends. So we've covered that a little bit. We're going to talk more about how this whole change is happening, what we're seeing on the ground, and then we're going to get into the 10 actionable steps that you can take right now. We're also going to cover the pitfalls to avoid, because this is an extremely noisy topic. It occupies a lot of press. People are talking about it everywhere. There's, in a lot of ways, not a ton of great information on it, or people have a lot of different ideas about it. And so in the legal space, there's maybe not as much clarity about what law firms need to do to prepare. That's what we're going to try and fix today, and help steer you in the right direction moving forward, so that you have the right mindset as these other people come along, try to sell you things, try to get you to commit to certain ideas or marketing strategies, that you are well aware of how this all works together, and you don't get taken for a ride, ultimately having a poor marketing experience and losing money, because that's what it's all about: growing your business, helping you get more clients, build the practice that you want to grow, and the way you want to do it as a business owner. So if you haven't been to one of these before, just wanted to say again, welcome. Brief introduction on our company. We've been around for 10 years. We have helped hundreds of law firm owners grow. We've added approximately $50 million in revenue for our clients. Some of the things I'm most proud about with our business, last year we had a 98.7 retention rate month over month. So basically we're losing less than one client per month. So it really speaks to, I think, the quality of our team, the ability for our team to help our clients see actual revenue growth, actual profitability, and a return on their investment. That's something that is foundational to our belief with how we want to help clients, is getting you that return on investment and be different than other marketing agencies out there. And have to include also that we were recently named to the Inc. 5000 list in the United States. So huge accomplishment, one of the fastest 5,000 growing companies in the United States. If you haven't met me, I'm Patrick. I'm the owner of this business, of Constellation, and I'm making it my business to be a leader in this space with AI marketing for law firms. We're going to talk about it a lot. We are building lots of exciting things behind the scenes and starting to roll them out, test them with clients, and be making those available to clients in the future. So let's dig into this. If you're doing other stuff, I can't be mad at you, but if you'd like to, this is a great time to put the phone away, close everything out, so we can all get better acquainted with this topic. And I promise that you will get something actionable and valuable from this if you focus in on the material. So like to kind of set the tone here before I get into the 10 actionable steps, is how you should be thinking about AI marketing compared to other marketing that you're doing, there's no shortage of things that you can do from a marketing perspective to try and grow your business. So you've got SEO, ads, email marketing, social, billboards, TVs, lead gen, pay per lead. There's all sorts of stuff out there that is available. And our historical formula has been heavily focused on the ways that we can get you into high intent search real estate. And so what I mean by that is that at that key point when somebody is out there looking for an attorney, you are in that conversation. And that generally happens by using advertising or search engine optimization, so that in those search engine results and now AI search results, you are coming up when somebody says, who's the best lawyer in Houston, Texas, or I need a criminal lawyer near me, things like that, right? We are still very keen on those two core strategies. We also offer email, social, bilingual SEO, other things like that. But the real movers from what we've seen of 10 years of data are those first two, SEO and advertising. Now, the new landscape with these AI tools and even how Google is changing the way search works by incorporating AI mode, it's going to require us to adjust a little bit, right? And so we want to be proportional about this. We want to be intentional about going and understanding these new trends, starting to deploy them, starting to adopt them for our websites and our businesses. But we don't want to over spend on it, right? Both from a resource and time allocation perspective. We also we don't want to go overboard with it, because if we do that, we will neglect the circumstances that are on the ground right now, the status quo. And we saw some stats at the beginning about the adoption levels and how fast this is all happening. But that is not representative of where we are today, right? And today is still very much dominated by Google, by people searching on traditional search engines and getting their answers or their the leads, the prospects that they're going to go for and call for service-based businesses through traditional search results. So in our view, we want to kind of match the proportion of how this is changing, right? And so that's why I recommend a 70-30 split. The 70 is keep driving on the things that are working right now. So traditional SEO, advertising, if you are doing referrals, those things are not going to change really. I mean, they will definitely change to some degree, but we see that as a slower burn to where we get into a new environment where ads don't exist or something like that. But even with all of this change that we're seeing in adoption of tools like GPT or AI mode that have fewer ads or no ads at all, at some point they are going to have to monetize. And so we see ads and also the SEO piece always having a role. But we still need to be preparing for the future. And we can do that by starting to allocate a certain percentage of our time, our energy, and focus into this 30% of beginning to take what we have and start to think about how that translates into an AI-centric ecosystem. Here's what we know so far about the AI search ranking algorithm. And this is going to be kind of a key point for the rest of the discussion. Because the 10 factors or 10 actionable steps I'm going to give to you are going to all relate back to this. And what it doesn't say here, but is a very important point about AI search, is that the factors that are going in and being used to show the search results on AI search tools are extremely similar to traditional SEO ranking factors. So as you go through this, you're going to see a ton of commonality between how to be found on AI tools and how to be found on regular old school search engines. But there are some changes. There is a little bit of nuance that is going to change between your strategy for ranking on Google, traditional search result, and how you rank on ChatGPT or Perplexity. So there are three categories. We have technical, content, and authority. The first one, we're going to talk about crawlability, how these AI tools find data on your website, how they understand your website, and ultimately get that to take it and become training data for these LLM models so that they can produce answers. We're going to talk about speed of the website. We're going to talk about schema and some other more technical ways that are going to give you a leg up, give you an advantage in being found in the AI search tools. We'll talk about content as well. We now are working towards a better hygiene schedule with content. We're seeing that freshness is a more important factor on the AI side than with Google search results. We're going to talk about natural language processing structure, the importance of FAQs. And then as we get to authority, we are going to dig into this idea of omnipresence and generating authority across the internet, not just on your own website, domain authority, and the importance of reviews. So before we get into the steps, want to give a warning out there that with any new big change like this, there are lots of snake oil salesmen out there and people who are going to, come and use the newness, the kind of idea that you're missing out on something as a tactic to try and get you to do things, right? Especially on a marketing side. And so I'm sure I get it on a daily basis, outreach that is talking about, hey, how do you appear in ChatGPT, or are you appearing more than your competitors in ChatGPT, and I've got the special formula that is going to get you up there and fix it. And from doing this for a long time, there is a lot of people who are very light on the details. They're very loud on the ideas, the proposed solution, or that they have the confidence in that they have the solution. But in reality, they don't, and they're not willing to do the work or the investigation that is needed to tackle such a complex issue. Because the thing that I will share with everyone here is that I think we know a lot, and we know a lot more than 95% of other marketing agencies out there about this topic, but we are still in the infancy of understanding these AI search tools. And if anyone claims to know the secret sauce or the secret algorithm, it's just a blatant lie. So be aware. Hopefully this gives you some better context for entering those type of conversations, understanding what you need to do to actually influence this. So let's dig into some of these specific items that are going to move the needle. And at the end of the day, our goal for our clients is that no matter where someone searches for a lawyer, and no matter how they search for that lawyer, they are going to find our lawyer, right? The ones that are our clients, the people that we want to get that visibility. And the first part is a technical foundation. So the number one thing that I've highlighted here is AI crawlability. So if depending on everyone's understanding or knowledge around Google and search engines, the way they basically function, and AI tools are exactly the same, is that they have these software tools out there that are called crawlers, and they're going out, they're crawling all websites, or as many as they can. Then they are more or less storing a copy of that in their own system and then indexing that. And so indexing is the act of putting it into search results. With AI tools, it's a little bit different. It's not necessarily an index, it's just the response, right? Because every response is basically being custom engineered at that time. But it has this foundational layer of data that is going in, and you may have heard of this. It's called training data. And so at one point, ChatGPT was only, quote, good up till like 2021 or something, because their training data had only gone up to pages that were created in 2021. So the first step in all of this is making sure that your website is crawlable. And you can do this by, number one, ensuring that you have an LLMs.txt file. So this is similar to like a robots.txt file, kind of a more technical thing. It's not a really complicated or hard thing, but basically you're putting an instruction on your website that is basically saying, hey, AI tools, you can come crawl the website, and here's the path I want you to go and find my pages. And so you're basically telling it where your sitemap is. That is going to make it easier for the AI crawlers to navigate your site, specifically navigate to the pages that you think are most important. And by doing that, it's not going to go off and crawl and then index these other pages that can get automatically created, like category pages or pages that no longer exist, things like that. By giving it specific parameters with an LLM's text file, with robots text files, you're going to have ultimately more opportunities for placement. They're going to be more intimately familiar with your content, with the makeup of your website, and they don't have to expend extra computing power to go and find all of the pages on your website. So we are already starting to roll this out with our clients. We've tested it, and it's going to be a mandatory piece of our SEO program moving forward. Another key point here on the technical side is optimization for speed. And what I'm generally referring to there is how fast your website loads. This has been a ranking factor in Google's search algorithm for a long time. And why this is important is that it is the most cost-efficient way for these companies to crawl your website and take that data, index it, or put it in their AI outputs. So you can help yourself and improve the performance of your website by making it cost efficient for them to crawl your website. We know, and we've seen this, that by optimizing speed on a website will instantly improve your search engine rankings. Because if other people are out there and they're getting a website on Wix, or they've had their cousin build it, it's going to require more computing power for these companies to go in, access all of the pages, move around, kind of map that all out. When you do it quickly and you optimize for things like fast loading images, you're putting those images in a format that Google's looking for, right? That they want and specify that they're needing. It requires less computing power, ultimately less cost, because the number one driver of cost for a company like Google or AI is training data. And so they are really at the mercy of the internet, right? So as the internet expands, they have to get more and more servers. And so you've probably seen out there in the news that people are talking about these AI data farms, the project, I can't remember the name, but Sky Bridge or Sky, maybe something, with the different AI companies getting together to build these massive data warehouses so that they can go and crawl the data, hold the data, and then spit it back out into these search results. So you can do yourself a huge favor by creating lean, speedy sites, which are ultimately going to give you preferential treatment in the search results and AI answers. Another piece in this puzzle is structured data. And structured data is more or less elements of your website that are built in a way that are more code friendly or are not written speech paragraphs. And these act like little signals to these crawlers, to these tools and search engines that give them an idea of what your website is all about or what you're trying to communicate. And so some different examples of structured data are schema and things like FAQ schema, which I'll talk more about in a later slide. These are like little clip notes that you won't really see on a page if you go to it, but as a crawler goes, they see it and they understand it. And the difference is it takes more computing power for them to go and read quote, read a website and go kind of understand the most important parts of it. That's a process that software has to go through to understand what you're trying to say for that page. With structured data and schema, you can basically give it the Cliff Notes version. And these crawlers and tools prefer that because it requires less computing power. They don't have to really do any of their own reasoning. It's really just there for them, right? It's easier to digest. And as a result of this, they're going to give you preferential treatment in their responses, because if they're going out and scanning 100 websites, they are going to include or pick the people who make it drop dead simple for them to get added to these responses. And so we are seeing the people who are benefiting the most early on in these tools and getting found most often are people who have a really solid foundation of website technical SEO. And the good thing about being a client with us is that we are already optimized for all of this. We've been optimized for this for years. And so this all has a really nice dovetail into where the industry is going. So a lot of these elements that have traditionally been SEO elements are now going to be geo or AI SEO ranking factors as we move forward. So it's a lot of the old, but we're starting to learn how it's actually happening in this new world. And so I expect and anticipate these factors. A lot of these factors will more or less stay the same, but there will be subtle nuance that will be used in things we can do, like the LLMs.txt file that are unique to AI search tools that you haven't used in traditional SEO. So let's talk about the second part of the AI algorithm, and this is going to be content. So these tools are out there crawling. They are more or less scraping and extracting the information on your website. That is the rocket fuel that is powering all of these answers. So if you go to ChatGPT and you type in something like what's the statute of limitations on a personal injury claim in Idaho, you're not accessing some all-knowing godlike creature in there who can just spit that out. It is all of those answers are coming from this enormous database of information that they have created. So it's basically like Google's search engine, where Google has gone out and crawled all websites on the internet, or as many as they can possibly find. The difference there is that in a Google search result, they're more or less just pointing to the people where the answer is. The real transformative piece of all of this is that with AI mode or with GPT, they've taken it one step further. And they've said, okay, we're not actually going to really point you to the answer and make you go click through a couple of the results to find it. We're just going to give you the answer, right? And that is all built on data from websites like our clients and other websites out there where they have effectively gone out, taken that content, and now they're using it as to answer their questions. So when you think about it that way, content optimization still has an enormous role in generating this visibility for you, because these tools are on kind of a floating a line, right, where they're kind of, I mean, they are stealing your content, right, and then repurposing it. They're trying, or they've shown effort to start to reference that information and give people credit, but we are still going to need to do our best to try and improve the content on our websites so that it gets included, and then we are the people being referenced in those answers. So a couple ways that we can actually optimize content for AI. AI tools are generally looking for succinct, direct answers. So in the past, the traditional search algorithm has put a lot of priority on content depth or comprehensiveness. And so roughly speaking, if you wrote more on your page, Google would see you as more of an authority, as somebody who knew more about that topic. That's kind of flipped now. And the goal for answers in AI search results are succinct, direct, to the point, right? And so a key point of content optimization and how we're going to kind of shift our approach moving forward is that, we still want to create the most high quality pieces of content we can, but we're going to optimize a little bit more for search intent, trying to get answers to people quickly, because if those AI tools find that you have answered that question succinctly and to the point, they're more likely to use you. So we are going to work on reducing fluff, getting to the point, using more of that structured data, like having an ordered list or a numbered list, a table with pros and cons, different things like that, instead of writing 3 paragraphs to explain the same idea. So you will still have a lot of value to add to your content and how you help shape your marketing, because ultimately what these tools are doing is recycling information that's already out there. The people that they are going to elevate and be the big winners are people who are going to add net new information to their content. And that means using your experiences, your expertise, weaving that in to the more technical side that we tend to focus on. So keep that in mind as you're working with your marketing company. So let's next talk about content hygiene. And what this means is consistently updating your content so that it's accurate, it's up to date, and it goes again above and beyond, right? It is adding net new, it's the highest possible quality. Freshness is a factor in this. In the past, it's been debatable about whether or not the most recent article would be the best article for a search result. And we, in the past, have seen that if we created a really, really solid piece of content that was 5x better than any of the other results, we would generally hold a keyword position for a long time. We would be the #1 keyword for how to get a spouse visa or something like that. There's been a little bit of a fluctuation here now where we're seeing freshness emerge as a more important ranking factor especially for AI optimization. So they're crawling more websites more frequently now. They've really stepped up their ability to crawl, their scale, now in a place where it rivals Google. And so whereas before in these AI tools, it was you were getting information that was not updated. It was from like 2021. Now it's pretty much out there, and it's out there whenever you do a search that uses the internet. You're out there searching for more with it. So we need to do a better job of updating content with smaller updates, but more frequently, making sure that it's up to date, adding relevant resources that have just come out. And then the other part of this is pruning your website as well. So going back on an annual basis or every 6 months, looking at, hey, is there any content that really no longer serves its purpose, right? It was a recap of a race our company did in 2021, not needed anymore. And the more you do that, you're going to put more of a spotlight on the content and the pages on your website that you want to have be found, right? So think about it as this ongoing, artwork that needs to be updated all of the time, right? And it's no longer good enough just to update a page, let it sit, and then come back for 3 years later to update it. Another key piece of the content aspect of things with this is Q&A optimization. So I talked about schema, and one of the biggest applications of marketing and SEO and everything we're doing here is this idea of FAQ schema. And if you're not familiar with this, it's basically kind of a behind the scenes piece of code that you put into your page for every question and answer, and it helps search engines understand that what you're trying to say on the page, and you are able to encode, designate that this is a question and this is the answer. The reason why this is so important is that AI tools are heavily focused on finding these. This is the dominant format that is happening in AI. People are asking questions and giving answers. And so when they're out crawling, they're looking for schema that is in this style, right? It's easier for them to see those, catalog them, and then use those in the outputs, the answers that they're giving out, than going through a really dense, big web page with 1,000 words, lots of paragraphs, and trying to synthesize, oh, this is a question, this is the answer to that question. This is like the Cliff Notes. It's like the drop dead simple, hey, this is a question, this is an answer. So we're recommending that you add as many as you think makes sense to pages on your website. And by doing it with schema, the most important part, you are giving yourself a better opportunity to be found in these answers. The other thing I would encourage you to do that you can do on your side, which is not necessarily a marketing type of activity, is start keeping a log of every client question you get, because this will be gold by putting them on your website. So finding places to take those client questions and put them on your practice area page, put them on in blog posts where you've covered the topic, or doing an FAQ database. Everybody has gone through a help desk or a help center where they give you a whole hub of information with questions and answers about your business. I see this all getting absorbed into LLMs, into these AI tools. And so people, look, in 5 years, maybe they don't even go to your website anymore, and it's all accessible through a tool like ChatGPT to say, hey, I'm interested in this lawyer. Tell me everything you know about them. Hey, what's their pricing structure like? That data and that information is going to be super important. You would basically want to control that conversation, as opposed to allowing an AI tool to come up with, as they've proven, hallucinations or bad info, and make conclusions that are not, accurate with data-backed information. So a thing that I like to do is at the end of every week on Friday, you look back at all the meetings you had, you look at, the client calls you had, and you just start to make a list. Okay, here are all the topics I talked about, right? Here are all the questions that I had and my answers. And you start to document that and then put those into like an answer base, or we do it internally with an answer bot where our team can get answers. But that's gold for the website, right? And it's easy content to do. So start thinking about it, put somebody on your team in charge of that. The final piece of the puzzle here is the authority piece. And so this is perhaps the most important because it gives you, it's going to do a lot of the comparison where you are going to get elevated over other people, because authority, your visibility on the internet is still an enormous factor here. And so when we're talking about authority, talking about your not only reputation, your domain authority that you can control, but also your visibility across the internet. And so that doesn't always mean a link. It means you being found, that information basically being cross-referenced with these tools, so that, yes, you're found on your website, but then they're also finding reviews or other information about your business on these other mediums. And that's all coming together. That is what is the sauce that is driving these answers and is giving you a leg up over someone who maybe only has a website, but they haven't put in the work to be found on these other platforms. And we talked about it a couple months ago with this idea of a content engine, of building out content on your website, but then also getting it on LinkedIn, getting it on Medium, getting it in these other avenues like Reddit and Quora and different places. So one extremely impactful way that you can influence this is reviews. And in the past, we have heavily optimized for Google Business Profile reviews, but now we are still believe that that's an incredibly important part. But we're saying, hey, you want to start getting multiple locations of reviews on the internet. And so that means not only on Google, but maybe getting that same person to do it on Meta, on Yelp, if that's a service that is found often in your area. It could be getting reviews on Avo and some of these other seed sites that these tools and Google are looking for to determine your credibility and authority. So if you don't already have an organized review capture or review acquisition program, you absolutely need to do it. You need to be getting reviews as frequently as possible. You need to respond to those reviews and get them across different platforms. You don't need to go crazy with it and get one person, absolutely has to do 10 platforms every time. But you do want to get a presence, and having one on Reddit, on Yelp is better than nothing at all, right? So start small, try to get one on every platform you're familiar with, and then start to stack more and more, right? Okay, the next item here is what I'm calling seed site seeding. I know it's a mouthful, but we effectively know where these AI tools are getting their data from. And so this is one of the biggest studies that has come out about how these AI tools, where they get their information to formulate those responses. And so as you can see, these user-generated content sites, Quora and Reddit, are enormously important, LinkedIn and YouTube as well. And so this fits in directly with our strategy of omnipresent SEO, where not only do we want to have your website being found, but we also want to have you found on these other platforms. And so when I talk about seed site seeding, I'm talking about getting your business found on these other platforms that data is getting sucked up and used for the answers on these in these AI tools. And so you want to start thinking about how to increase your visibility on these platforms. We are going to be offering that as part of our AI services, repurposing content from websites onto these other platforms. And a couple of easy ways you can do this are establishing your own company channel. So getting your company on LinkedIn, doing LinkedIn Pulse articles, getting your company a presence on Medium, on YouTube, on Reddit, on these other places that we know are getting crawled more frequently, and that information in there is getting pumped into the answers on a more consistent basis. You can also start interacting in those communities. I wouldn't advise jumping in 1,000% and just starting to reply to every Reddit post out there, answering every post on Quora. I don't think that's the best utilization of your time, but you do want to have it in your strategy, right? And go once a month or every other month, go and start looking at, are there questions on here that I can answer, get my name into these conversations, because they have a long value tail on them. There are conversations that will happen thing you can do is get involved in these, build your own company channel, and start to get more active on platforms like YouTube, LinkedIn, Pulse, Medium, and Reddit. Another key tactic that we're going to be getting into more heavily are these best of lists. And so we have seen that these are being found very prevalently in the AI search results. And so when people are going on to the tools, their user behavior is a little bit different than traditional search. They are asking, who's the best attorney in this area? Who's the best criminal attorney? And as a result, they are looking for these best of lists to be cited. And often there's no real background checking on the best of list, right? They are just grabbing awards, local roundups, places like 3 Best Rated Online, these different websites that, cultivate the best of type of articles. And so a tactic that you can do right away is start to cultivate your own best of list, right? Cultivate the best legal service providers in your area. Work on it with some of your complementary colleagues, right, in other practice areas, and you could all develop a best of attorneys list in your city, and right away you're getting 8, 9 different pages with links back to you, and developing this seed context for the AI platforms. And we're going to be doing that in a much bigger way at scale, and figuring that out for our clients. The final part of the actionable steps here, and then we'll start to wrap this up and go through just a couple of the pitfalls. I've talked about them already a little bit, but don't forget that at the end of the day, a lot of the things we're talking about here are actually just SEO, right? It's just search engine optimization, but done in a slightly different way. So old-fashioned link building is still the #1 driver of authority. And how do I know this? Because I've asked all of the AI search tools about their ranking algorithm in depth, and the #1 answer I get around it is your website's authority is really the best driver to know if you are a important, comprehensive, topical expert in your area. And so, yes, we want to do all the things I'm talking about, but we also want to keep building links. So this is still going to be a key part of our SEO program for our clients. Ultimately, these tools all need data. They all need to train their answers, and that all is coming from search engines. So you still need to make your strategy heavily focused on how search engines work, which has traditionally always been content and links. Those are still the 2 primary drivers. So if you want to get into AI tools, you have to get into the search results. So we want to continue to pursue links at every opportunity. The idea I just shared is maybe the best thing you can do right now, because not only will you get a link from 5, 6, 7, 8, or 10 other people in your area. They're extremely local, they're relevant, and they're coming from other law firm websites. So it's it's an easy way to get 10 new domains and overall increase your domain authority. So a couple of pitfalls just to keep in mind here. When tracking your results, don't fall for these AI rank trackers. We believe the best way to track this is going to be through monitoring traffic coming from these answer tools, these AI tools. That's going to be the best way to actually track whether or not what you're doing on Reddit or these other areas is actually working, because there's no real way to do AI rank tracking, because they make none of that data available. There's no analytics for these tools. The other best way that I think is going to become increasingly important to make sure you're getting value out of your marketing efforts, specifically with AI, is ask your clients how they found you. Because they are going to have this patchwork journey to find you by doing a little bit of online search. Maybe they'll do find you on YouTube, or maybe they'll find you on an AI tool and then investigate you using AI. It's going to be a little bit of everything, right? And so you need to be in all of those places and ask them on the ground. I don't think a technology solution will really be able to solve this. So I saw a couple messages go out. We've got the checklist going. Put your name in there if you would like to receive it. We're going to keep adding to this and grow this over time and make it give it as much value as possible. But if you are wanting to be on the cutting edge of this emerging marketing strategy, then let's talk. Let's set up a discovery call, because we are about to unroll our services, our AI-driven services for clients. We're going to have a baseline that all clients are going to get. We're also going to have a whole bunch more of other strategies that I didn't talk about. And we're talking about all sorts of more advanced strategies that people can get into and are going to move the needle and place you as the dominant lawyer in your market, someone who is going to come up more often and at on a higher place than your competitors. And now is the absolute best time to get in on this. So I'll leave it there. Thank you everybody so much for coming. I love talking about this stuff. I think it's so exciting. It's going to mean change, absolutely. But if you take some of these proactive steps and don't get into analysis paralysis, you are going to be light years ahead of your competition and position yourself for the next 5-10 years to have a really successful law firm. And that is what it's all about for us. So again, thank you so much. If there are any questions, I don't think I saw any come through, but if you have any that you would like me to cover, I can stick around here and happy to get into more of it. But that is pretty much it for me on this. And we will send this out if you attended today and you signed up for the webinar. We will make sure you get the information after this. Just hang out here for a couple more minutes.
Patrick, there was a question on, do you think ChatGPT could start charging for referring leads to firms?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is yes. I think it's going to be remain to be seen how this all plays out. The specific mechanism that they will use to monetize, but there's no question that they will have to monetize at some point. Right now, their only monetization mechanism is their subscription fees. So you pay to use it. It's a consumption. You pay for the API, things like that. That is, they're losing a ton of money right now because they're putting all of their expenses are in infrastructure, building this experience, getting more people to use it. And so they're making it inexpensive to get people on board, use it. So the next step is then, okay, how do we monetize this? And that's what I'm very interested to see how that all works. They've said they're, going to keep the answers neutral. But I think in reality, that's going to be really tough. So I don't know if you'll see responses from a ChatGPT that say, hey, according to, ChatGPT, we endorse these people, or we think these people are the best based on this. I think it will be, here's how the world views these people. They think the best are these. And then I'm guessing that at somewhere in that response, they're going to have a, opportunity to either advertise in there, or they're going to have direct links to book, or, kind of similar to how Google set up the booking tool within like their Google business profile. ChatGPT will have something like that where, it's basically one click and you can you can send that inquiry without actually leaving the platform. So yeah, I mean, I just think it's inevitable that they are going to monetize it, and it's just a question of how. Excellent. All right. Unless we have any other questions, so we'll go last call for any questions or points of clarification. But again, thank you so much for joining us, and we will be back next month with another interesting webinar. So thank you again, and I hope everybody here has a wonderful weekend. Thanks. Take care.